So first of all, Birol Ergüven from Limak Energy Group. Round of applause for him. Thanks for coming. And Douglas Salt, Frank Salt Real Estate. Douglas here. Round of applause for him as well. And Francesco Boni Guinicelli, I hope I pronounced it right, from Art Square. Thanks everyone for coming. I have three speakers from three different industries. Francesco from arts, Birol from energy, and Douglas from real estate. So since morning we've been talking about like investment in blockchain technology, what's changing, and sort of things. So you're all doing different things in different industries, and every single of you are really disrupting your industry by using blockchain. Should I start with you or you, whoever wants? Something like you. Let's start with you. So,
you want to go first?
Let's start from here. You've been investing in blockchain, and now you are doing Art Square.
Yeah.
And you are like, how are you using blockchain in art, and what are you doing?
We are tokenizing artworks. When it comes to disruption of the blockchain to all the industries out there, we've been seeing that it's crazy how there is everything can adopt blockchain. Mm-hmm. Everybody can create a token out of anything, can create a genuine use of a token. In the art sector, it's a really interesting sector because it's huge. There are like 64 billion just the value of transaction in art in 2017. And when it comes to applying the blockchain to this particular sector, there are several approaches. We saw with Codex, we're looking at the provenance of artworks, we're looking at reducing the cost of transaction. We like to focus on the tokenization of the artworks, meaning democratizing access to this niche sector by allowing people to buy portion of the artwork, just like shares of a company.
Oh, okay.
So using the blockchain technology in a way that respects the value of the blockchain, which means get away from intermediaries and allow and using the technology to connect a world with potential users, in this case, mm-hmm. investors. And I think it's the feedback that I have after the conference is that it was really nice how everybody presented the blockchain in an easy way, because we see that it is complicated, yeah, but we should just make it simple. So in this case, you have an artwork, you create tokens, you sell these tokens, and these tokens represent a portion of the value, and a contract between the art owner and the token holders that represent an agreement that rules the relationship. So simply applying what is the actual word, creating a private agreement, a contract between I when we buy a Picasso together, writing in the blockchain to make sure that we will not disagree.
Buy Picasso together.
Yes, and you put more money than I do.
You put more money.
No, you said.
No, you do that.
So yes, joke apart is simple, translating what's the new word, using the technology, applying the technology to create something that is more transparent, more easy to use, and then can scale quite quickly using exposing an industry to the world of crypto.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I'm going to get back to the topic, but first of all, let's move to Birol. So you are CEO of one of the largest energy groups in Turkey.
That's right.
So what are you doing with blockchain now? Why are you here?
Actually, energy sector is quite conventional industry. There are many sub-industries underneath. When you look at least in generation, there are many other subsections. But when we look at last 10 or 15 years, we see a big change in electricity generation, which is renewable. And within renewable, especially solar, is very much interesting. Because many years ago, let's say 15 or 20 years ago, that was maybe one of the most expensive way of producing electricity. But right now, it is cheapest. And it is decentralized by nature. That means anybody can just at least put a solar panel on roof and can produce a certain amount of electricity. That's a perfect approach for new world of energy. And what we are trying to do is very simple. In the last 2 years in Turkey, almost more than actually 5,000 megawatt new solar farms has been established by many individuals. And we have seen that many people actually wants to invest in solar. The investment amount of solar field, let me say, if you compare with others, still very easy, maybe not so much costly, but actually it is very much complicated at the same time. So when we see that capacity, so many people wants to invest, but they don't know how to do it. And also when we see that it is actually quite effective way of producing electricity, we decided to initiate an idea first. By this idea and company, let me say, we want everybody, ordinary people, to invest in solar. In order to invest in the system, you don't have to have so much money. Even 100 lira is enough. Or let's say $100. That means you just buy a certain share and be a kind of investor in solar. And you have the limit. How much money you have, how much money you want to invest, you can do it. And we decided to start with not projects, but already up and running solar fields. So they can immediately get their return in a short time. And solar fields are very much sustainable and very much actually predictable. That means there is almost no risk. So once you start with already up and running solar power field, you can then in the second phase start projects. Important part, maybe the most, let's say, important part of the project is actually knowing the industry. The idea is simple. The technology is not so much complicated, but you must set up a very good system, a kind of platform that actually identify, make all kinds of due diligence to the current solar field and only open those projects to the investors. In the second phase, with this experience that our company has, we can actually open up not only energy projects, projects related with energy, maybe even larger scale. That's what we are actually planning with Next Ventures, as you know.
Yeah, so I wrote down some questions for you for the next round. I'll get back to you.
Okay.
So, Douglas, you've been doing real estate business in Malta for like long years. 15 years.
50.
50 years, wow.
Not me, our company.
Yeah, your company. So now you are planning or doing real estate on blockchain. Actually, you launched a fund, or you will be?
We are currently launching a fund, or we have launched a fund already, to invest in blockchain applications which have real estate as a function. The reason we've done this is because we recognize that blockchain is going to be a major disruptor in our field. I mean, over 50 years, we've seen many changes. I could really connect with those clips that Sean showed. We were the first company to put our database on a computer. We would have to physically take those big floppy disks between branch to update. Then came the dial-up, then came the web. Now the traditional web has already begun to disrupt our industry through portals, which have put the smaller players and the bigger players at par up there, although we spend tens of thousands on SEOs and so on. And blockchain is set, in my opinion, to be very much the next disruptor. It will take a bit of time because a property transaction is a bit more complicated in the sense that you need various facets to come together for a transaction. You need the notarial side, you need the land registry side, you need the actual deed of acquisition, you need the database itself, but once someone manages to put all the pieces together, we could very well end up without a job. So it is in our interest to be the disruptors rather than let somebody disrupt it for us. You know?
And Malta actually is really regulated on this field.
Yes, our island has just passed legislation, one of the first in Europe to regulate the industry to an extent. As agencies on the island, we've already started working with blockchain. I mean, agencies to agree on something is not a very easy task because it's a very competitive and cutthroat industry. But our first application has been for us to put our sales in a transparent manner on.
I was going to ask actually, is there an application now that is it open for everyone?
It's being built. It's in its final stages, where the agencies will put in a transparent way their transactions without the fear of them being manipulated and so on the blockchain, and create a property price index, which will be built up over time, which will then obviously be open to the public to be able to get a sense of values.
And the payments will be in crypto or fiat currency?
Sorry?
The payments will be in crypto or fiat, or doesn't matter?
It doesn't really matter at this stage. It will take a few years to build up anyway, but it could be either or.
And like those, what do you call them? Title deeds? Titles?
Yes.
They will be like transferred on blockchain?
There will be the title deeds, and it will be open in different sections to different users. We are looking at the sale of property through crypto, which locally we have certain issues with the banks. I mean, the due diligence they requires provenance of funds pre-crypto. So we are trying to work with the banks to do away with that level and go from crypto to currency, you know, and stop there.
Exactly.
But that will very much depend on the appetite of the banks. But certainly, I think tokenization of properties, I mean, everybody wants to own a piece of a property, you know, so it is something that will definitely take off before the more complicated way of actually conveyancing over blockchain.
I mean, like properties, I mean, real estate, and I don't know, similar conventional assets. Like since we heard the term blockchain, we've always been talking like, oh, okay, this is a great idea. Let's transfer ownership of a property on blockchain. Like it was the idea that everyone was talking, but I think we are getting closer to that because, like, obviously there are some legal things to solve. I mean, like, because like when the person dies, what will happen? Kind of questions are really big question marks. But at least like by seeing some working prototypes or maybe like real world examples, those legal details will be sorted out soon. So again, I'm getting back to you. Is this application your product? Is it available now or will it be soon? What is the brand? Is it publicly available for everyone? So if I want to like get a solar panel for myself, if I want to just get one, is it possible?
Actually, what we are planning is we want to make everything ready by the first quarter of next year. Coding is almost ready. The idea is there, but as you also mentioned, regulation-wise, there are things that we have to solve. We are strongly believing that it will be solved because the idea is very strong and very easy to apply, and it is good for everybody. As I said, consider that it is solar power generation, and people who really want to support this renewable electricity generation will have a certain, let me say, motivation to change if there is any regulation which is against. So we believe it is the future of new way of electricity generation, and also not only generation but trading. Regulation-wise, it will be applicable to all retail activities, trading activities. So we will be seeing in energy sector that especially retail trading activities will be heavily operational under blockchain technology.
Art Square, is it available now for everyone?
Art Square is.
So am I am I going to be able to buy Picasso just now? Or?
We are launching.
Because I can't wait to buy a Picasso.
But we were buying it together. It will be launching the first features at the end of first quarter next year, and will be fully functional probably in summertime. And the product is ready and needs to be switched on the blockchain. And it will not only be about Picassos, it will be about the world of art in general, which includes collectibles, digital art, and also scale-up artists. So if you think about... It
will be good for independent artists and like indie artists.
This is something that I want to stress. The possibility, thanks to blockchain, for artists to talk with the market, like a crowdfunding, and let the market decide the value of their work, to recover liquidity from a not liquid asset simply by presenting it to a big crowd that is there, and the job of the platform is just to do the KYC, MAL, and facilitate the transaction. And then the market will decide the value. Something that is incredibly big in the art world is branding. You see, the last auction of the Da Vinci at Christie's that was sold, what is known as the male Mona Lisa, was sold for 450 million, and was incredible, triple branding. You have Da Vinci, big brand, and the Mona Lisa that represent, you know, the art, if you want. Then you have Jesus, because it reminds of Jesus, that image, and then you have Christie's, 450 million, which is something that I respect. Is the work of in creating value out of an artwork. But thanks to the blockchain, we can allow that world of young artists, scale-up artists, artists in the digital world that don't have access to these temples of the art industry, to finally talk with the market and present a project, get in an agreement with investors, and finally recover some liquidity. I think it's interesting. It's kind of similar to what you're doing, allowing people to invest in assets that are inaccessible at the moment. And I think this is one of the principles of blockchain. So, great stuff.
I mean, all three projects sounds really exciting to me. And definitely, all of you are changing those really traditional industries, definitely. And like being the first mover will definitely gonna give you an advantage on that.
It gives us more problem than advantage.
And also problem, I mean, do you wanna, let's quickly ask if someone wants to ask a question. Do you have any questions? Because we're gonna finish in a minute. Yeah, question? Here. Is it possible to get a mic quickly, or can you shout? Yeah, let's try. Oh, mic is coming. Yeah, let's do it properly.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah.
Hello, it's quite encouraging from you guys to hear that how you kind of bringing the technology in the areas which is quite, I mean, traditional, right? Historically. So I wonder what's your main challenge, because you're kind of transferring like the transitional period when you kind of bringing the new features of your, let's say, the companies and the product, right? So what are the main challenges you're facing today?
I couldn't.
What are the main challenges?
Yeah, main challenges,
right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I say the biggest challenge is how to maintain the traditional while you're growing the new concept, run them in parallel for a while until eventually the new concept overtakes the old and takes its place. Unless you do that, and if you just go for a cold turkey approach, it's highly risky.
And your challenge is probably more like regulations again.
It is mostly regulation, but at the same time, the model can be copied very easily. It is very simple. There must be also some maybe regulation to distinguish right one to the wrong one. Because
actually, the initial investment may be so high for most of the people. And they still copy it, do you think?
It can be done. It can be done, but important thing is the details. If the platform we create easily shows that it is very transparent, right people are actually making due diligence in 360-degree manner, then they should choose those platforms. But I'm sure there will be others who will be try to copy. If investors do not differentiate those platforms among each other, then this is a problem for everybody. Mm-hmm. This is maybe second phase, but first phase, yes, it is regulation. But I am sure that it will be somehow overcome.
I think in our case is skepticism from and the fight in the fact that while we are working on projects, the world of ICOs, blockchain, and cryptocurrencies is seen from it's not mainstream yet. There's too much buzz around it. All the public is trying to understand the technicalities of it. People ask you how you mine the artwork, things that are really complicated because there's so much information around it, and there's fear in the adoption. On the other side, the project is just as every tech project. You build a strong tech that you will keep on building forever and ever because tech evolves every day, and you create a tool that is easy to use. Simple as that. It's just to allow a person like yourself to feel like, okay, yes, I'm gonna get a little piece of you're gonna join us in buying the Picasso without thinking. Let me look at
the end of the session. We're gonna buy a Picasso. You know that.
It's done. Let me look at the code behind it. Let me check the stuff. When you buy, when you go on the stock market and you buy some a piece of Google or Amazon or these big players, do you go look at the books? Either you have a financial advisor that you trust, either you go just speculative because you think it's going to be good. I don't believe that you tell me. I actually go and check the books and see the record. In the blockchain, we are at this stage. Everybody claims to know everything or wants to know everything, and this slows things down if you want. That's, I think, this I think is a challenge for all the players in the industry at the moment.
Thanks for joining us today. It was a great pleasure having you here, and I think we had a good time together. Thank you.
Thanks.